Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Hero Movie Podcast, your greatest source for superhero movie discussion in the multiverse. I am your host, Adam Portrais, and I'm joined by Bruce Leslie.
I'm a prickly pear, and you can't believe how excited I am to have another week with a bunch of Japanese words.
We could not be more excited, and unfortunately, we're not excited that unfortunately Mr. Sean Keenan has had to call out sick. Well, he's not really sick. He's actually working, so I don't want to sit here and make him. If anyone's sick, it's me. So if I sound a little bit funny, it is because of sickness.
he got hired to dance at a last-minute bachelorette party, so we can't hold the guy back.
Hey, listen, when you have to pop out of a cake, you have to pop out of a cake. What can you say? As long as they don't start cutting into it before you're popped out of it, I says you're okay.
I just hope he has his red bow tie handy.
It's a big bow tie. But he'll be back. Don't worry. But, you know, you got to earn that paycheck. So we appreciate him at least letting us know. But don't worry. Fear not. For Sean is gone. We'll have a Stallone connection for you, okay? Don't worry. I know that there's people on pins and needles for a second.
I was holding my breath for that one.
They were sitting there going, "Oh no, how are we not going to know this thing's?" We got you, baby birds. Don't worry, it's okay. We got you. We're going to scoop you up in our loving arms and bring you on home. It's okay.
Spoiler warning: Juliette Binoche is in Expendables 4.
Oh man, too bad Stallone doesn't sound like he'll be.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so that's kind of the latest.
That's crazy.
That's the latest. Here's your latest Stallone news minute. It doesn't look like Stallone actually wants to be in the next Expendables movie. It looks like there's a good chance that they could be doing it, but I guess that there's a creative differences or something. So I'm just like, look, the dude shepherded it through 3 movies, man. Just let him do what he's going to do, you know?
Yeah, it kind of sort of undermines the whole point if you don't have Stallone in it.
Yeah, if it's like, oh, well, Dolph Lundgren's not going to be in this. I don't think anybody's going to go home crying in their soup. But is that a saying, crying in their soup?
It is now. Don't cry in your soup,
don't
little boy.
Don't cry in the soup, little man. It's going to be okay. I think that was an Oliver Twist.
There are tears in my soup. It's too salty.
That was in the director's cut that you guys didn't see. David Lean had a lot more about crying in soup that nobody know about. It's okay. That's all right. So don't cry in your soup. What the heck were you talking about?
Something about Sylvester Stallone and Juliette Binoche and that mysterious Expendables 4.
So Expendables 4. It's probably not going to happen at this point, but who cares? Look, if there's anything that Hollywood has told us and taught us over the past, it's that they don't care about anything. They're just going to do whatever, whether it's a good idea or a bad idea. It's not going to stop them from doing it. So Expendables 4 coming out next year.
Next thing you know, they'll be announcing no more Schwarzenegger in the Terminator series.
Yeah, well, that wouldn't be
That's already been announced, actually.
That wouldn't be bad. I'm sorry. I forget, but James Cameron, I think at some point gets rights back to Terminator, and not too awful long.
Yeah, that is something I've heard.
But he's like, oh, don't worry, kids. I'm not going to touch that Terminator. I got 15 more Avatar films that no one wants to watch.
Oh man, I don't get the investment in Avatar. I even saw that Disney World is opening up like an Avatar section. Like, there's any kid that really wants to go to Orlando to see the Avatar land.
Yeah, they're just like, hey, let's not. I don't want to go and see Mickey or the Pirates of the Caribbean. I want to see a floating Avatar. That's the big thing that they're touting, man. Everything where you go, they go the floating islands. I'm like, this has got to be dope. They keep pushing it so hard.
Oh man,
it does not sound like fun. So if you'd like us all to do a show at the Avatar Islands, what we need you to do is go down to patreon.com/HMP. Be one of the many people who have helped this show keep a-flowing, man. And I think we have 21 people here for the month of April. Joining in, letting us know that they love us and that they're taking care of us because we help take care of you, and that's what this show is. Our advertisers have dropped off because clearly we're no darn good. So So we're relying on you guys to kind of help things go along here. We got to give big shout outs to executive producers Matthew Schnapp, Jim Beverly, Robert M. Barney, and of course, good old RocketFace coming in there. So Micah coming in, all at the executive producer level. Thank you guys all so much. Associate executive producer Warren. Warren's actually gone up in his donation as of late, so that's pretty awesome to see that. And of course, the other people that come in at the all magical $5 level, these are the people that get the exclusive pre-show, the post-show, any kind of extra bonus episodes and things like that on your own private RSS feed. This isn't one that goes out to anybody else. And it's not like you have to go to the website and listen to it on the website. It's pretty cool. You plug in your own RSS feed, it goes right into your iTunes or Stitcher, wherever the heck that you go, and it downloads that directly. That's for you, my friends, and that's what's super cool. And of course, all the other things. But let's read off the people at the $5 level. It's the most popular level, and these people are the coolest. You got Khalil, you got Bill, Marcus, Eric, Edward. We got Greg, Kevin, Robert, Gorgon, Maria, Marlon. I can't read. It's the screen's not big enough. And Winston. There's so many of them. But we thank you guys for coming in at the $5 level and everybody else that's right underneath them. Thank you guys so much for all this, man. We really appreciate it. We really appreciate you, the ones of you that come in month after month and everything. And here's what we want to do, though. I want to hear this. May's coming up. May is a special month because May has not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, but 5 weeks in it, Bruce.
Oh, 5 weeks.
So what are we going to do with that extra special week? And we'll talk about that in half a second. But May is going to also be our 3-year anniversary for HMP. I can't believe we've been doing it this long. It doesn't feel like that. It's gone by really fast.
Yeah.
But we'll be doing so. So May is going to be our 3-year anniversary here, and we really want to say thank you to you guys. So especially to everyone who's listened for all these episodes, and especially anybody who's contributed on Patreon. So May is going to be our big month of giving, if you will, us giving back to you guys. Now, Micah actually had recommended this earlier, and I think there's no better place to put it in May. If you contribute to Patreon in the month of May, instead of giving away, and we're going to give away some other stuff too. Like I said, it's appreciation month, so you're going to get a lot of stuff. But one of the things that we'll be giving away in May to one of our Patreon supporters is you get to actually pick the movie that we talk about.
Nice.
That's pretty big. Now, there's one on the table that automatically you cannot do. Because and it's Judge Dredd, Stallone's Judge Dredd. Because we've if you have only been listening for a short amount of time, you need to realize that we will not be doing that show until this show ends. It'll be the finale. That's our swan song. If and when we decide to ever stop this show, that will be the last thing that we do. So that you cannot request. So that's one of the main ones, and we may veto something, but more or less, you're going to get good free reign. You can do whatever you want. Tell us if it's a TV show or a movie or something. We're going to do it. So that will be one of the many things. But there's other stuff to be given away and things as well. It's going to be a month-long thing. We got a couple of ideas on the table. So all you got to do is go to patreon.com/HMP. Join up. It helps keep this show running. And, hey, man, you might get yourself... Well, you will get something back in the process. Obviously, a lot more material if you're at the $5 and up level. But if not even that, you'll get put into drawings for other things like that as well. So, like, dude, it just makes good sense.
You can't afford not to do it.
You really can't, because honestly, I mean, you'll get at least probably 10 or 15 minutes more per show every week because we have the pre and post show there and everything. And like I said, when you have a chance to win things that can run you a lot more than what you actually donate, it would be silly not to do that, man.
Yeah.
Now, I do want to read an email here. Oh shucks, I didn't pull up the thing, and Marty will kill me if I don't.
We're in for it then. We're in for it.
So, if you do want to email us, you can email us at hearmoviepodcast@gmail.com. We really would appreciate that. What I'm going to do here is open up this here mailbag.
Bale's here.
Speaking of which, apparently the guy can't get enough of the show, and we can't get enough of him. So Mr. RocketFace himself has sent us yet another email. It reads as follows. Hello, gentlemen. As a big Neil Gaiman fan, I was wondering if either Sean or Bruce had read American Gods, or if Adam has listened to it. That's fair enough to ask that question. If so, is there any interest in reviewing it on the show? It's probably a show that I'm looking forward to the most this year and hoping that they do it justice. On another note, I just finished Outcast Season 1 and really enjoyed it, although I did find it difficult to pay attention sometimes due to the set decorations mesmerizing and distracting me with their peerless quality. Must have been people doing good work. That is from our good friend Micah, a.k.a. RocketFace. RocketFace, thanks for sending the email, man.
American Gods. I have read issue 1 of the comic that Dark Horse put out. I think that came out either last week or 2 weeks ago. Haven't read the book, haven't listened to it on Audible, but I am looking forward to the show.
I've heard a lot of good things about it. I'll put that on the table. I haven't, you guys know me and reading. You're not, you're smarter than all that.
And I had already planned next time I get one of those free audiobook credits that is probably the book I'm going to get. But we'll just have to wait and see. But I'd be game for reviewing like the first episode or something.
Yeah, we always need that kind of stuff around here. Well, we shall see. We shall see. We're already booked up all the way through April. I think most of May is almost already set as it is. We keep busy around here. Remember when we thought like, it'll be so hard for us to
have stuff to cover.
We can't cover the things we want to cover now. We're just like, what if we did this? We're going to have to wait like a month in order to do that. Is it still going to be on the air then? There's been some of that, honest to goodness.
We don't have any theatrical releases till Guardians of the Galaxy 2 though, so at least we'll get a little creative in April.
We'll see what we can do here. All right, let's close up that there mailbag.
Vale's here.
Now, I should have done this previously in the Patreon segment here because I forgot about it because I got like 15 notes open on my table, but I didn't do this. But this is definitely important for the Patreon people because not only are we going to have that one where just a single Patreon subscriber can actually go through and pick the movie, we're still doing the standard voting that month as well. So that's what's cool. You're still going to be able to do that. Now, here are the movies that you can vote for for the month of April. The first one is going to be the Thomas Jane Punisher movie. Not too shabby. This one, you've heard him talk about it so much, we had to put it on the list just to try to shut him up. George Hamilton in Zorro the Gay Blade.
Hey, that is RocketFace's choice, I believe.
That's you. There's something about it that you keep wanting to see it too. So I think it's you can blame him all you want, but you've been a champion for that off the air that people may not know about.
I have.
Of course, after that, we have the classic Conan the Barbarian. Yeah, a lot of see. Some people's like Zorro, Conan. Yes, these have a long comic book history. So keep that in mind. And of course, this one you've also been you personally have been touting for a while. Hero at Large. This is a John Ritter flick. Was it on TV back in the day?
It was on HBO back when I was probably 10 years old or younger. So it's been a long time since I've seen it. I liked it then. I've heard it's not so good.
Well, that's just more better to put it up for the people to... why do you do this to us?
I don't know, man. It's one of those things. I need to learn to think more and speak less.
I like it, though, because I think you get to that point to where it's just like, well, I wonder if my memories hold up as bad as I think they do.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of times where I know I've personally gone through that and go like, ooh, I can't wait to watch this. I love this as a kid. And you watch it and you just go, how dumb were we? Were we just the stupidest of children? How did we ever get away with thinking this is whatever this is was good? So, man,
I have gone through many bouts of shattered nostalgia. Even stuff that I thought I remembered well, I've rewatched and got to say, stuff even recent stuff doesn't hold up as well as you think.
No. But, we shall see. And, of course, that's going to be patreon.com/HMP. If you're at the $1 level all the way up, you can vote on that. That should be out. We'll have it up on Monday when you're listening to this. So, thank you for all of that stuff. Now, let's get into it, everybody. Here is the trailer for Ghost in the Shell.
This is Major. I'm on site.
You are the first of your kind, but you're not invulnerable.
Maybe next time you can design me better. Everyone around me, they feel connected to something. Connected to something I'm not. What are you?
You were dying. We saved you. And now you save others.
Words like violence break the silence.
I don't know who to trust.
You trust me, right?
I know I have a past. I'll find out who I was.
Everything they told you was a lie.
Who are you?
They did not save your life. They stole it.
All right, that was a trailer for Ghost in the Shell, our new release review of this week. Here's the IMDb plotline. In the near future, Major is the first of her kind, a human saved from a terrible crash, who is a cyber-enhanced to be a perfect soldier, devoted to stopping the world's most dangerous criminals. This is directed by Rupert Sanders, starring Scarlett Johansson, Juliette Binoche, Takeshi Kitano, and many more people who I'm not even going to attempt to pronounce their names and do them injustice. Bruce, let's get down to it. I'm sure a lot of people are aware that this comes from an anime, but also has another history as well. What do you got for us in the comic book connection?
Well, boy, I'm trying to reduce the amount of Japanese that I have to use, but I'm going to have to do some of it. No way around that. But Ghost in the Shell is a manga series written and illustrated by Masamune Shirow. And it started in 1989 with the original title, Mobile Armored Riot Police, or in Japanese, let me try this,
Oh boy.
Kokaku Kidotai. Does that sound right?
Perfect.
Kokaku Kidotai. That sounds perfect to me.
I think that was a Jazzercise a video in the 80s.
Well, boy, I think I've got that one in my VHS collection. But it was first published in the U.S. by Dark Horse Comics. It's set in 2029, incidentally, the same year that Logan was set, in the fictional Japanese city of Newport City. Now, the original story pitted an antagonist known as the Puppet Master, who was an artificial intelligence that had evolved to be alive, against Major, a natural intelligence that had sort of been made artificial. And here's a good old spoiler for you, Adam. They eventually merge. Now, Public Security Section 9 is a special operations task force made up of former military officers and police detectives, and it's at the center of the story. Now, the work is generally considered cyberpunk and reportedly inspired the Wachowskis. They allegedly went into Joel Silver, showed him the anime of Ghost in the Shell, and their pitch for The Matrix was a live-action Ghost in the Shell. Now, Masamune Shirow struggled to make it neither too complex nor too simple, which, I suppose, is the challenge that with all creative endeavors. Now, apparently, the Ghost in the Shell title was inspired by Arthur Kessler's Ghost in the Machine, which is a philosophical look at the evolution of the human mind. A lot of interest in the philosophy of Ghost in the Shell has been around for the nearly 30 years since it was published. People have gone to great lengths to compare and contrast it with Descartes' dualism, you know, the whole I think, therefore I am, and that sort of thing. But I have not taken a deep dive into that. Did you catch that, Adam? I said deep dive.
Yep.
It's also been compared to the ship of Theseus. That's an ancient Greek thought experiment that raises the question of whether an object that has had all of its components replaced remains fundamentally the same object. It's a similar concept that famous Sean Keenan impersonator Adam Carolla has asked about Paul Newman's race car. But of course, Plutarch asked whether a ship that had been restored by replacing every single wooden part remained the same ship. Also a central concept in George Wilhelm Friedrich Hegel's The phenomenology of spirit deals with Geist, and I think that might be the German word for ghost. But for Hegel, the great hero is unwittingly utilized by Geist or absolute spirit by a ruse of reason, as he puts it, and it is irrelevant to history once the historic mission is accomplished. Now, an important concept within Ghost in the Shell is that evolution is the process of merging two sets of data in order to create a third set of data which contains the most vital elements of the original organisms, along with some element of chance. Also, the question given much fame by Star Trek The Next Generation's Data, or Data if you prefer, which is, when does artificial intelligence cease to be artificial and simply become intelligence, i.e. a new life form? Now, in an interesting way, Ghost in the Shell also addresses the inverted copycat idea. And that's an idea where something like Star Wars overshadows The Hidden Fortress, or the Joker overshadows The Man Who Laughs, or perhaps Ghost in the Shell overshadows the work of Philip K. Dick. Now, the 1995 anime is widely considered to be one of the greatest anime films of all time, surpassed only by Spirited Away and Akira, and much critical attention has been paid to the film's focus on sexuality and gender identity. In a future world where sexual reproduction is given way to mechanical replication, the fact that gender is also negligible in Major's world, and technology exists to make the hardware match the programming, if you catch my drift. Now, one reviewer from Paste magazine has argued that Ghost in the Shell is more relevant today than when it was released 20 or so years ago. They describe it as a story about what it means to craft oneself in the digital age, a time where the concept of truth feels as mercurial as the net is vast and infinite. Now, somehow this live-action adaptation seems to have missed dwelling on many of the key philosophical and existential questions asked by its predecessors. Some may find that a good decision, and some may simply ask why.
Yeah, and I think by box office standards, most people asked why. Why would you put this out? Because it seems it's like you said, it's long removed from its kind of source material. I mean, like even the actual animated movie and everything. So this kind of thing had been gestating for a long time, where they'd been kind of playing back and forth of like, should this be something that we do? Maybe it's on, maybe it's off, back, forth, left, and right.
And I think my first question about it, I don't know how you feel about this, Adam, but my first question is why Ghost in the Shell and why not Akira? If you want to make a big budget, mainstream, first time adaptation of anime, why not go with the big guy first, Akira?
Well, they're still constantly trying to do that.
Yeah,
that's been ongoing. It seems every couple of years they'll get pretty close to doing it, and then everything falls apart. I think even most recently they've been like almost a go, like maybe about 6 months ago.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and they were just like, okay, it's now it's going to happen. We're ready to do it, and then it falls off again. So,
because I got to say, every time I saw Scarlett Johansson on her motorcycle, I found myself thinking about Akira.
Yeah, and here's the thing. I don't really know. I think this all has like a place and a time, to be honest with you, that I don't know that really resonates now all that much. Now, did you ever, I'm sure did you see these back in the day?
I saw Akira. I didn't see Ghost in the Shell back in the day. I saw that more recently, and I've never read the manga.
I saw Ghost in the Shell probably like almost late 90s, probably like 97, 98-ish, somewhere in that neighborhood.
Yeah.
Because it came around at a time when people my age, like you started to dip your toe in that anime water, right?
Yeah.
And you either were just like, I think everybody tipped in a little bit and was just like, okay, I'll check out this and see what it is. And there's just kind of a standard of things that you kind of go through. You go through Ghost in the Shell, you go through Akira, you go through Ninja Scroll, Vampire Hunter D, and a handful of others.
All the Miyazaki. What's his name again? I don't want to get another one wrong.
Miyazaki films.
Good. I was close on that one. You go through his stuff.
You go through that stuff, and by and large, you're either like in it to win it, or it's just like, maybe it's not real, down my alley that much. I was in the latter. You know, I respected it for what it was.
It was never my cup of tea.
But it was nothing that like really, you know, jumped out at me. That's not to say that I can't watch some of the stuff and respect it and think, oh, well, that was pretty good. Just nothing that made me want to kind of keep going on further and further to where I was just like, can't miss the next episode of Dragon Ball Z or what's the Cowboy Bebop or anything. Like, I get a lot of people love that stuff. Just never really been my thing. I mean, not for nothing. I don't want to say it's bad or anything. Just not my cup of tea.
Yeah, the only time I really and it was when I was very young. You know, I think when we're very young, anime might strike us easier because we haven't sort of got the we haven't grown accustomed to Western animation and Western storytelling as much. So when I was really young, I mean, I think we all watched Speed Racer as little kids, probably. Mm-hmm. I also like Battle of the Planets. I don't know if you ever watched that one. No. But there was stuff I liked when I was real young, and then when you get older and you go back to it, you realize that it wasn't really all that good. I mean, Speed Racer, other than the nostalgic value, not everybody likes that.
It's not great. It's not great. I mean, it is what it is. It's very of its time and everything. And to me, at the same time, like when thinking back, I haven't watched it since like the late 90s or anything with Ghost in the Shell, but I left with this one a lot like I did the other one of like, okay, it was like this movie as well as the other one, very, very pretty. They're very good looking movies. Yep. But it feels like, and this is going to upset some people, but with a lot of animes, to me, it feels like there's a lot of like, you want to be super deep, but you're really not as deep as you think. It's that philosophical friend after a couple drinks at the bar that just really thinks that they're super heavy into stuff when it's just called, you know, you're kind of rambling a little bit.
And I'll also say that sometimes I feel like, and it's not just anime, there's other projects that do this, but I think sometimes by asking a vague question and not answering it, they kind of expect us to accept that as deep. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So I think that happens a little bit to me when I watch anime too, or other stuff too, but anime in particular.
But I think a lot of that time and stuff, like for me, you know, when you're of that kind of formative age and everything, and you see this stuff, and it's very violent, and there's like nudity and stuff, and it's just like, you know, for, you know, when you're 16, 17 years old, that really like, you know, that fires off all the synapses, right? Because that's all the like new cool stuff that you haven't been, they haven't let you watch it, you know, up until this point. And so when that stuff comes in, it's very intriguing and very kind of almost taboo in a little way, going, oh, there's a cartoon that's got like, oh, everybody, like people are getting shot in the face and there's boobs and stuff. It's amazing. I love it. And you're just like, you know, there are a lot of people, I was just like, I like that stuff, don't get me wrong, but at the same time, I'm always like, is there a story here that I should be enjoying because I can't find it?
The novelty can wear off, that's certain.
Yeah.
I've got another question for you about Ghost in the Shell, the live-action adaptation. Mm-hmm. I feel like they go to great lengths to duplicate a lot of the look from the anime, and I haven't been able to decide whether that's a plus or a minus. Do you know what I mean? Like, in some ways, I appreciate how great of a length they go to almost make some of these characters look like cartoon anime characters. But then at the same time, I wonder, well, maybe they're not supposed to do it that way. Maybe they're leaving something on the table by holding too closely to the aesthetic. So I keep juggling in the air whether or not that's a good thing or not.
Well, I think that's one of the biggest problems with not only just this, but a lot of other adaptations and things as well. There's an interesting line that you have to watch, and it's really a damned if you do, damned if you don't situation. If they follow so closely to it, people, you know, get into the situation like you're saying right now is like, oh, well, they didn't deviate any further. It doesn't seem like they were willing to grow or expand any further beyond what they initially, you know, were given, the material that they were given. Or, you know, so either they're down that road or it's just like, oh, well, this is so far off of what we had for the original that it doesn't seem like it's what I really wanted to begin with. So it's like you're really screwed no matter which way you end up going, I think.
Yeah, and it's always there are also questions that I have with adaptations, which sometimes they seem to change things arbitrarily. Like they'll take a character whose name was Brad and change it to Bill, which I don't understand why I mean, that's not specific to this.
It's the Goyer effect.
Yeah. Sometimes they just make changes that seem so superficial that they're just doing it so they can feel ownership. Like with this, the project number is 2571, I think, or 2751, something like that. In the original story, the project number was like 2041. It's like they changed the number by a couple of hundred, but why? Sometimes I don't get it. And also, I don't get why they, the original material had so much impact that they felt they wanted to make a live action adaptation, then they totally changed the antagonist story, like undoing the central question of the original project. So I don't get that either.
Yeah, like I said, it seems like you never really know all the behind the scenes things, and I think that's one of the toughest parts, is not being able to know where this kind of comes down, where it was like, is this more of a director's thing, is this more of a writer's thing, or is it more of a just they're like, hey, let's just do it to do it kind of thing. I have no idea. Did
you see Avi Arad's name in the credits?
Oh, I think I did, yeah.
That's another one that I wasn't expecting, because his I just say his style is to get projects going when there aren't other projects going, but he doesn't really fit in the modern comic book movie era very well. He was good to get us those first X-Men, that first Spider-Man, but now we've kind of moved past the Avi Arad time in movie making, in my opinion.
My friend, here is what I do. I come into the thing and I see it and I go, you know what I can do? I can screw this up quite a bit. You just step back and watch, and I'll do it. Chomp on cigar. That's how I see Avi Arad in every meeting, just going like, we're going to take a little bit of this element, but we're also going to do whatever the heck I want to, because, I did produce Spider-Man movies.
Yeah, when I saw his name was attached, to me, that was a -1 rather than a +1,
Yeah, and thankfully he's gone away with so many of the other things, but unfortunately he's coming back with the, all the Spider-Man offshoots that won't be connected to the MCU. Guess whose name's attached to all those?
Oh, I would imagine his name's still attached to the main Spider-Man title.
I don't know that it is.
I thought it might be one of those things where he's not allowed to have any involvement, but they're contractually
if he is,
to put his name on it.
Yeah, if he is, he's some like deep subsidiary.
Yeah, because there's the guy who bought the rights to Batman movies back in the 70s, so now they have to stick his name on every single movie with Batman in it, even though, they wouldn't dare ask him his opinion on anything.
Just wakes up in the morning. Like, what?
Just send me that another $1 billion check and I'll be happy.
Everything's okay. Everyth's all cool. You guys do what you do. I think Sony needs to get that way with Spider-Man. I don't understand why they're still doing what they're doing. But thanks Avi Arad. I know that he's the guy. Like he's the man behind all of this, for better or for worse.
I guess another question here with Ghost in the Shell and this whole idea of that fine line between real world and artificial intelligence, and what does it mean to be real, what's it mean not to be real. Do you think that The Matrix did it better than this live action movie? I don't mean do you think that is The Matrix a better movie, but did it ask the questions of Ghost in the Shell better?
Well, here's the problem. You want to know, this is going to blow your mind. This might blow the mind of a lot of other people.
Yeah.
Because I don't say this a lot, and because people will automatically just go, okay, you're on drugs, which might not, I'm on a lot of antihistamines right now, but that's about it. But I think in which it was Terminator, was it Salvation? Yeah, the one with John Connor. That's
the one with Batman in it. Christian Bale.
Yeah, Christian Bale. So Christian Bale plays John Connor. But the problem with that movie is, and that's a bad movie, don't get me wrong. But the real part about that is that's good, that completely got washed off the table, was Sam Worthington's role. Sam Worthington played the first kind of this takes place just before they go like full just android, where they have half android, half human. And so Sam Worthington's character believes that he's an actual human being, where indeed he's kind of a cybernetic organism. So they wanted somebody that could fight and do, much like Ghost in the Shell here, wants to fight and be able to do all this stuff, but still has the brains and the emotions and everything, and the intelligence with which to disseminate everything, right? And it was his coming to grips with the fact that he was actually no longer a human, but a robot that was designed for this purpose and everything, that made that bit of the movie very, very interesting. But they don't really focus on that too awful much, and that's what killed me about that movie. I was like, this isn't John Connor's story. It's this robot, half man story right here. That's a way more interesting storyline that they just were like, we want to tell John Connor's story. No one cares. I think that one did better as far as like, getting that question of man v robot than any of these things did. With The Matrix, for me, that was more of just kind of a is what we're living in kind of is that a simulation kind of thing.
Yeah.
I think that's more or less not the what is it to be human, but what is it? I think that's more of what is the human experience, if you will.
Well, I'm going to confess to you what I liked about The Matrix, the original Matrix movie, really had very little to do with the philosophical question and the plot and the storyline. I liked the bullet time was a new thing. I liked the fighting. I liked some of the cool visual elements of it. It was kind of an interesting take on sci-fi, but I didn't really get all that into the philosophy of it. The whole idea of the blue pill and the red pill and being woke, that was all just sort of necessary to get me to the cool scenes. And I know that's not the popular way to approach that franchise, but I think that's what made it work for me, is it was all just new visually.
I think we're all thankful that the phrase woke wasn't around when the first Matrix came out. Thank God.
Well, that's where it came from.
I don't know about all that, but it might be.
That's what I always thought.
Yo, what's up, man? I'm woke.
Shut up.
But, when you see her plugging in to do that deep dive and the way that she hooks in the back of her head, I mean, it's that's all in the anime, that's all in the manga, and that's an obvious element that the Wachowskis used, and they don't deny it.
No,
it's not me speculating.
They were very upfront and just saying, like, you're absolutely correct in your research there. Is they came to all the producers and stuff and go, here's all these animes. We kind of want to do this. So they gave them a lot of different options and stuff and said, here's our kind of philosophy around this but here's kind of all of where the inspiration and stuff comes from. And they were like, we wanted to bring this comic book and anime style to, the big screen. And
the green zeros and ones coming down like a waterfall, that was all from Ghost in the Shell, the anime, and they used it in The Matrix. And then we see it again here. And I know there are going to be people that go and see this live action only and think they've ripped that off from The Matrix.
Rip off!
But I guess if we want to touch on something that's more valid, as I don't want to call it a ripoff, but something that clearly heavily influenced Shiro, is Blade Runner, man. I mean that's the obvious comparison here, right? Blade Runner is the one that asked that existential question about what's the difference in artificial and real intelligence.
Yeah, I mean, and not only that, from just definitely a visual cue, it's very, very, very Blade Runner. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, man. The cityscape and stuff. And then, Blade Runner, I'm of the opinion that I don't think, that's Ridley Scott, right?
Yeah, Ridley Scott. Mm-hmm.
I don't think he intended everyone to ask the question about whether or not Deckard is a replicant. I think that happened kind of organically out of people seeing the movie, and then it's been tacked on. But I think that whole central question being absent here takes away from this kind of concept, whereas the anime and the manga sort of had that idea of this AI. Does he count as real or not? And then he merges with Major, and it gives us, I guess, more philosophical questions, whereas here it's just, the government did bad stuff to runaways.
Yeah. Now, don't worry. You do have 4 different cuts of Blade Runner to figure it all out.
No, I researched this once for my Deckard episode. There are technically like at least 17 different cuts. It's crazy, man.
Well, ones that they'll let you see. I'll put it that way.
Yeah, because that counts like TV cuts. There were TV cuts that made it shorter, TV cuts that made it longer. There's all kinds of the European TV cut, the European theatrical cut. It's just crazy.
Yeah, and some are better than others. So it's
a
lot of people hate the one with the voiceover. I like the one with the voiceover. It gives more, like, granted,
that's the original theatrical cut. And I was going to say that I like that. I think you need to see that cut first. I saw the director's cut first, and it seemed slow to me. I saw the theatrical cut, then I went back and watched the director's cut again, and honestly, it's easier to enjoy the director's cut once you've seen the voiceover version once and you're all caught up to speed.
Absolutely. That is one of the truest statements people have said about that, because I think that's what a lot of people don't get, because a lot of people go, oh man, the director's cut's way better. But if you see the director's cut first, you're right. It is a lot slower, and it's just like, it doesn't, it's weird because the theatrical cut fills in a lot of gaps, but also fills them in kind of almost unnecessarily in a way. But you kind of also sort of need them in the background. It's kind of like reading the preface of the book before you get into the book itself. I guess, in a weird way.
But I guess that's one of the things I felt like this movie was missing is I don't feel like it asked a significant question. I mean, the question we're asked is, what is the truth of Major's history? But we do know she was a human. We do know the government rebuilt her. We know something happened. We just don't know what. I think they need a bigger question than that. And that's one thing I think hurt this is we don't have a bigger, grander question like the other versions of Ghost in the Shell had.
And it doesn't feel like she's really... to me, she's playing it so dead. Like, I know you're supposed to be, part robot here, but you don't need to everything just seems so just flatlined across the whole thing, where I don't feel like a lot of emotion or a lot of, it doesn't feel like a lot's going on behind the eyes.
Well, that brings up something I'm dying to ask you about. How did you feel about Scarlett Johansson's, I'm just going to call it her robot walk? I guess she's trying really hard to walk like a robot, but I found it distracting. I thought it took away from her performance, this weird way that she walks in this movie.
I don't know that I saw the walk that much. Maybe I was watching the walk, if you dig what I'm throwing down.
Well, I certainly won't fault you for that, but there's just something about her walk that looks to me very clearly like she's trying to walk like a robot, but not doing a good job of walking like a robot. And I think she'd been better off just doing her normal, regular movie walk.
Yeah, better than walking like an Egyptian, I says.
Of course, there's nothing on earth that's harder to do than walk normal after somebody says, just walk normal for a minute.
Oh, dude,
then you
seriously.
get all self-conscious about it.
If you've
Next
never...
thing you know, I look like J.J. Evans from Good Times when I'm trying to walk normal on purpose.
Dude, but seriously, if you've ever done any acting in anything and somebody just says, walk from point A to point B, you're never more self-conscious about how you're walking in your entire life to where, you'll start walking and it doesn't feel right to you. It doesn't look right to them. And all they did is say, walk from here to here. And if you know that that's your job to do, it messes with your head in a really weird way.
Suddenly I turn into Gene Wilder in Stir Crazy.
Just kind of...
We bad. Oh, man. But, yeah, to me, some of her walks, some of the way she holds herself, she tries to walk without moving her elbows, but they're just things that, come on. We're past that. This is some future where they can build these super realistic cyborgs. They're going to be able to walk real, too. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You don't need to try to force that uncanny valley on us.
Yeah, it's not necessary, I think. I mean, when everybody can... leave the robot walk into the robot geisha and stuff like that. Those are your low rent ones. I
want to talk about that geisha, man, because when she turns into a spider and starts crawling up the wall, I think that's one of the best visuals in this movie. One of the best visuals in any movie I've seen in a while. That I was totally into. Yeah,
I mean, like I said, that's to me, it's the worst part about this whole movie is that there's a lot of cool stuff in it. It's just it doesn't culminate to anything.
Yeah. It's like a whole lot of it's like a department store display present where it's wrapped really nice with really pretty gift wrap and ribbons and stuff, but it's either just an empty box or styrofoam cube or something.
Yeah, there's nothing inside of that thing. Tommy's going home and crying, but everything looked really, really cool. The design on everything is cool. It kind of keeps it. It's the nice futuristic retro. That I like a whole bunch, and like I said, it's very the anime. It's very Blade Runner.
The cars in particular have the anime look to them. I mean, they were painfully faithful to the reproduction of that car that looks like a 1988 Fiero set in the future.
Mm-hmm. It's very cool. It's just and the action scenes are not bad. They're not amazing,
not bad at all.
But they're very very acceptable. Let's put it that way.
The spider tank. That spider tank at the end. That's something, too, that I think being faithful to the source material was a little bit of a drawback because I think it would have been okay for them to make that spider tank look a little more fancy and not have to feel so linked to making it look like something from the source material,
Yeah, but again, I say, you know, they deviate too far from that. You'll have people going, "Oh, this is not what I want," and if you stay the same, then it's just like, "Oh, this is too samey." It's like you can't win.
Yeah, but that would have been okay to embellish that one a little bit because, you know, we have the capability to make it look better than something from Roblox or Minecraft.
Not fun.
Now, something that I saw that I had no idea about until after I'd seen the movie and I was just doing a little reading about the production. But did you know Margot Robbie was originally their choice for Major?
That would have been interesting.
Yeah, it's hard for me to picture Margot Robbie in this role. I think Scarlett Johansson, despite, you know, there are the obvious objections to her having that role, but and those are legitimate. But beyond that, I think she was a good match for this character.
Yeah, she's fine. And again, but at the same time,
I'm a fan of her, so I defend her maybe more than, you know, I know Sean prefers Emily Blunt, but I like Scarlett Johansson.
Well, here's the thing. It's just like, to me, I can't put any of the onus on why this character doesn't work on her necessarily. I mean, because like if you want to look at something that she did that was really great too, that was also like super understated and everything, check out I think it's called Underneath My Skin.
I've seen select scenes.
I'm sure you have. I said everybody should. But it's really good. I saw that in the theater, which is such a great place to see it because there's a couple very Kubrickian sort of scenes in there that were really, really awesome to see on a big screen with, like, you know, a lot of really loud sound and stuff. It's pretty cool.
Did you go with your mom to see that one?
No, I went with Ryan Van Genderen, actually.
Okay. That would be an awkward one to see with your mom, I imagine. That
hey, man, that lady ain't wearing no clothes. That's pretty cool, right? But no, she's good at this kind of sounds bad. She's good at playing lifeless characters that don't do a whole bunch. But
I would call it cold characters.
Yeah, there you go. That's probably a better way to put it. But
because even Black Widow has that emotional distance.
Mm-hmm. But Black Widow has a lot more to play. And that's the nice part about that too, is like, you know, when I just recently rewatched, you know, the Avengers for the show and everything, and just seeing like her back and forth with Loki and everything, and how she kind of turns on a dime there and all that kind of good stuff. It shows that, you know, there's a lot to, like, the girl can act. There's just no doubt about that. But in this movie, it's very stilted. There's nothing much to it. You want to see something, but nothing really feels like it's going on too much. And I think that's the biggest problem, is that, you know, we know a little bit about the character, that, you know, they were like a refugee or something, right? There's a big accident. She got saved, and that's how they kind of, quote unquote, save the whitewashing, if you will.
Yeah, and this is a totally rebuilt cyborg body. Yeah. So they could explain it away. They could even explain it as they were trying to distance her from her former self. I think and I can understand if you address it, it might make the situation worse, but they could have addressed it in story in a way, you know, because she does find her mother and find her history. Who is an Asian lady. The bad guy. We could have Cutter saying that he wants her to look different, at least something as simple as that.
Yeah, it's I you know, and we talked about it before and stuff, and everyone can say what they will, but at the end of the day, well, this is not going to.
we talked about it on Nerd Talk Now. You and I did in regards to Iron Fist.
Yeah, but this, I mean, it would work a lot better if this movie made a lot of money. But their idea when they shoot this thing is, hey man, we want to have somebody that's a name recognition, and unfortunately, we just don't have a lot of, you know, Asian actors in this country that could be the star and open up a movie. You know, we have a couple of men that can do it, but not, and even then, not very many of those.
Well, my question too, and I don't know the answer to this. This isn't, you know, maybe I'm in hot water for even asking this, but even if it's a Chinese actress or an actress from Hong Kong, does that still not boil down to making folks angry? Why not does it have to be a Japanese actress, or is Asian close enough? I don't know the answers to these questions. But
the critically acclaimed, and I believe at least a couple of minor award winnings, Memoir from a Geisha says that you can do whatever you want. It doesn't really matter what. I'm just looking at. I looked at that movie and I'm just like, anyone recognize that all of these actresses are from the wrong country? No? Okay. Well, I'll just move on then. Let's just pretend that these people are Chinese, because 90% of that cast is Chinese. And I'm like, that's not correct. But okay, whatever. So I don't think Hollywood cares that much.
even going back to a lot of anime, I feel like the creators and the artists try to make the characters almost ethnically ambiguous in the animated form and on the page and stuff. They want they want a lot of people to be able to identify. So I feel like Major's kind of ethnically ambiguous even in the anime.
See, that's what I mean. I believe that's correct, and I'm gonna sit here and I'll throw my ignorance on the fire to go with this one because I'm not the biggest fan, but I think a lot of anime and stuff. You're right. A lot of more of the characters, while technically I guess Japanese in nature and everything, have a slightly more Euro look to them than not. But I just took them as just people. I know that's going to sound like a real hippie thing to say. It's just like I didn't look at him and just go, well, that's an Asian man. Well, that's a white man. I just looked at him as like that's a person. I mean, I know that, and I'm not that kind of hippie person. But I never sat back and thought about what's Goku's ethnicity. I was just like, he's a dude.
Well, I do think that the one thing that would clearly have been bad is if they had tried, and there are rumors that the studio played around with CGI Yellowface, and I think that would have been the unforgivable sin.
Well, the Wachowskis did a little bit of that themselves in that one flick. I forget the name of it off the top of my head.
But we don't need to bring back Mickey Rooney from Breakfast at Tiffany's here.
No, but there's also
or Yul Brynner.
Yul Brynner. I am of an Asian descent. Okay, pal. Like you're not even American. Get out of here. He's like, at least I'm not from at least it's like closer, right? Does that count for something? Yeah, it counts for a lot. You'll get out of here, you jerk.
Yeah, but there were some rumors they were experimenting a little bit with the CGI equivalent of putting Sean Connery in Yellowface like they did in that James Bond movie.
Yeah, it's a little much. Let's There's controversy, and then there's how dare yous.
Exactly.
And in this day and age, stick clear from the how dare yous. I mean, you'll catch a little bit of heat, but it won't be as much heat as to check this crap out. Like, uh-oh.
Oh, man. Yeah, you don't even want to joke about that because how easily that can go too far.
Not too good.
But I will say my favorite character in this movie, hands down, is one that is portrayed by a Japanese actor, and that's the old guy, the chief of Section 9. He was hands down my favorite character.
Yeah. He's good. He sits back. I mean, speaks Japanese the entire time, so apparently everyone is fluent, or they have one of those kind of Star Trek things where they just kind of...
they have a babblefish in their ears.
Yeah, exactly. Translate it on the fly and everything, so... He was good, especially with that crazy ass anime hair. I love it. They were just like,
too.
We don't give a damn. We're gonna make him some weird crazy hair. We're just gonna put him in there, and that's gonna be that. And you're just gonna be okay with it.
And he pulls out the old Wild West cowboy Colt 45 revolver for his weapon of choice. I just like the guy. He's old. He's like the Japanese Nick Fury. He's old. People underestimate him. And when he gets attacked, man, he takes Cutter down.
The Japanese Nick Fury. Oh man, if he'd had an eye patch and smoking a cigar, I think this movie would at least got one grade higher for me.
And I just got to second you. I think the hairdo was 85% of what I liked about the character.
Oh, I'm sure it is, especially coming from you. That just makes nothing but sense to me. Just like that hairdo.
I also liked what they did with Batu. I don't know if I'm saying his name right, Batu or Bato. I like what they did with his eyes. The explosion destroyed his eyes, and they went back to the anime roots and gave him those cool little eyes that have nice detail that you have to look close to see. They almost have like a camera type aperture for an iris in there. They put some nice touches in that.
Yeah, it looked really good. That was definitely one of those. It's like, wow, that looked a lot. That was pulled off a lot better than I could have imagined it to be, because it really could have been. It could have been terrible, and it's like it's funny because it walks the line of cool and terrible, but it only crosses the cool line by just a little bit. Not a lot, but just a little bit to be cool enough to where it's just like any other, just a little bit more the other way, and it would have gone into terrible. And I think that's what I call the Al Pacino line. Because Al Pacino has that point where he's just like, he is overacting all so crazy, but like it's just enough to where it's still good, and it's not to the, you've gone off the deep end yet. He straddles that line. This makeup job and everything straddles that line. It's almost there, but just doesn't go over to the wacky crazy.
And I think one of the weak points of this film is our Roy Batty stand-in. I think they call him Coos, which is kind of a weird name. Mm-hmm. The puppet master, of course, in the anime, they've changed his backstory. The actor is a Dutch actor, I guess. but I don't know if he's Dutch or Danish, but he's a European actor. But I felt like he fell flat for me. I think a lot of what I didn't like about this movie is that I feel like they mishandled the Puppet Master analog, the Roy Batty analog, the guy they call Coos, which I don't like that name.
He's American, man. He's from Jersey.
Are you sure?
Michael Pitt. He plays. Oh man, plays Coos?
That's. I think I'm getting him confused then with the actor that played Batu, who's from Denmark or somewhere.
Okay.
But yeah, okay.
Yeah,
that
he's
the country confusion. But boy, he did a good job of convincing me he wasn't from the U.S.
Yeah, he's 35 from West Orange, New Jersey.
Has he been in other stuff?
Not a ton that I think a lot of people have necessarily seen. He was in Criminal last year. That got a little bit of love. Not a ton of people ended up actually seeing it. Been on a couple episodes of Hannibal. He was in one of my favorite movies of 2011, Hugo from Martin Scorsese. He was in the Funny Games remake. That's about the Village.
Maybe the Funny Games remake. Given that Funny Games is German, I just must have thought he was German in some weird way.
Yeah, he was in Hedwig and the Angry Inch. That's a little bit more,
Yeah, a little bit more subversive.
Oh, and speaking of which, Finding Forrester. Gotta throw that.
But anyway, he fell flat for me, man. I'm just going to say that. I didn't like how they dealt with the I don't really want to call him the antagonist. He's the pseudo-antagonist. Whatever the opposite of an anti-hero is, he's an anti-villain, where at first we think he's the villain, then we are supposed to come over to his side.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the biggest thing for me is that, like, it had a lot of elements to be something, but at the end of the day, it just didn't hit home. It didn't feel like it had a lot of much of anything.
And it's never a good sign when you feel this way, but I feel like there's a good cut of this movie out there. I think if they'd taken a different approach in the editing bay, I think that there's enough actual footage that was shot that it could have been put together in a way that moved a little better. And I don't think they could have told necessarily a better story, but I think they could have made this a more interesting movie.
And it's weird because, like, as good as a lot of the soundtrack is, I feel like there could be more of it. I think they could have leaned into, like, some more heavy elements of it and stuff that, and you'll hear a little bit of that into the front and back of this show. But I wish they would have kind of leaned into that a little bit more to really give us, to bring that feeling home a bit more, in my opinion.
And I don't know, the rights to all this stuff is always more difficult than you feel like it should be. But it would have been cool to use some of the score from the anime, I think. I think some of that stuff was powerful. Some of the Japanese language stuff would have been real powerful, I think.
Mm-hmm. All right. So now, before we get down to reviewing this here movie, we have to get to one of the most important parts of this show, and that's where the Stallone connection comes in. And I have a prepared statement for you.
Oh, really?
Yes. Doe Griffith was the location manager on Ghost in the Shell. He's also worked on The Bourne Supremacy, Jumanji, and the suicide train known as Indiana Jones and the Crystal Skull. A positive note about this movie, Harrison Ford had the exact same measurements he did on Indiana Jones and the Last Crusades. Not too shabby, says I. Now, Doe Griffith starred in the 1976 movie Carrie, a movie that weirdly made the amount of girls named Carrie jump in the United States. But probably being the best thing that ever happened to Doe Griffith, that happened in 1978 when he was able to work with a guy who was shamefully never on Hollywood squares, Sylvester Stallone. That movie was called Fist, which is a movie that we've spoken about before on this podcast, way back in episode 13 when we reviewed Stan Lee's Stripperella. You know what? That's not actual. I totally lied to you because I'm a liar. I'm not honest and true like comedy icon Sean Keenan, who is handsome and big in the bathing suit area. Wait a minute.
You're reading it word for word.
Okay, so I didn't write this.
Stay classy, San Diego.
Yeah, no kidding. So there you have it, HMPers, this week's Stallone connection. Now, no pupils, let's review this movie so we can scrape from this turd as fast as emotionally possible. Bruce, now, if you out there, if you don't know what our patented Robin rating system is, you can head on down to facebook.com/Hero Movie Podcast and see it right there at the top of the screen. Bruce, where does Ghost in the Shell 2017 fall on the Robin rating system for you, sir?
You know, it's got interesting visuals, and I won't deny that. There's something interesting there, but I really feel like it's a missed opportunity. This movie feels like a missed opportunity to me to do something kind of cool that hasn't been done before. Honestly, I'm going to say it feels infinitely more forgettable than last week's Power Rangers movie. I think I'm going to have to go with a rating I don't use a lot, and I think I'm going to have to go with Stephanie Brown on this one.
Well, you and I are on the exact same page. This is Stephanie Brown all the way, and I think you're right. I think that there may be something in here. This could use a Blade Runner-like sort of thing where they go through and give us a couple different edits and go, which one do you guys like? Maybe we can choose.
And, you know, if we want to get into cool live-action manga movies, I think maybe – I've never seen it. You probably have. But I think maybe I'd like the Lone Wolf and Cub movie, or maybe there's this movie Death Note that I don't know if the movie's any good, but it's got a really cool-looking character in it. I think there's stuff out there I would like. This just isn't it. Well,
let's see. Now, if you're interested in that, email us at hearmoviepodcast@gmail.com. Maybe we might get to some of that someday. I'm a big fan of Lone Wolf and Cub and the traditional movies that it was based upon, that we kind of took a couple movies and edited them together to make an American release and everything.
I see. I didn't know that.
But yeah, but Ghost in the Shell, it's okay. It's okay. It's a gorgeous looking movie. I just wish it had more to do. I wish it had more to do, and I felt better at the end of it, because at the end of it I was just like, well, that was the thing that happened, so you know, it could have been better, but I guess certainly could have been worse, no doubt about that.
Yeah.
All right, so that is it for this week, everybody. Join us next week when we're going to be wrapping up Iron Fist. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
I forgot about that.
The long-awaited second half of Iron Fist.
Because people have been doing that. People have been going, hey, what are you reviewing this movie for? Get back to the Iron Fist. You didn't finish it up, you big dummies. And we're like, okay, we get it. So we're going to be reviewing the last, 7 episodes of Iron Fist on next week's show. So stay tuned for that. And, of course, if you want to listen to those first 6 episodes, that's available. A couple episodes previous from this one. Check that out, man. If you're on the iTunes and stuff, drop down and give us a 5-star review. Holy snot, Bruce. I didn't do it. I totally forgot. We have a 5-star review.
What do we call those?
We call those humdingers.
See, I'm still in shape with that.
So not too shabby. You're getting there, my friend. Swear I thought I took a screenshot of it, but we really appreciate everybody that has gone down and given us that 5-star review and everything. We are coming up very, very close to 100 of those, and that is where we really, really want to be. We really want to get in that triple-digit kind of thing right there. Like I always tell people, you know, the higher the download numbers, the higher the iTunes reviews and all that kind of good stuff. That's what keeps people coming back and doing all this kind of stuff over and over again. And if my player would load properly, here we go. This one is 5 stars. It's by the Q Diddy. Wait a minute, nope, that's a really old one. It's not loading. We'll get to you next week, buddy.
We'll
Don't
get it
worry.
Next week, guys.
I thought it would load on time.
We don't want to sell them short. We'll give them the proper treatment next episode.
You're going to be exalted upon high next episode. Don't worry. I saw it. I just forgot about it because we were trying to juggle all the balls in the air at the same time. Bruce, until next week, where can we find more of your work on the internet, sir?
You can always go to chubbywizard.com, listen to Chubby Wizard. We've always got lots of talk about comic books and comic book television over there. We'll probably have some WrestleMania talk if Chris has his way. And I'm looking to get another Heroes and Villains out soon that's going to be all about Kitty Pryde.
Ah, very good. We can walk through all the walls.
And don't forget Dragon and the Needles. I saw one of our faithful listeners had posted a screenshot on our Facebook page where he had downloaded the audiobook. Mm-hmm. That's a good man right there.
Oh, yeah. So check that out, everybody. Nerd Talk now. I've missed a couple days. I have been sick. I'm still sick now. I don't really sound like myself, but I've soldiered through this episode as best I can. So that and the Film Find are put off until I can get a little bit better, because I just don't think that I can do them quite that justice.
Here's what you need to do, man. You need one of those big cardboard cutouts that looks like you. Sit it in front of the camera and just replay an old episode so people think it's a new one.
Oh, look, it's just having a really hard time buffering. I like that. That's not bad. I can play one of the beta episodes. Not a lot of people heard those.
Yeah.
Except for when they hear it, they just go, "This news is all old. Why is he talking about this old news? This is stupid. I hate this show. Unsubscribe."
I can't believe what Dwight Eisenhower said today.
Dewey defeats Truman. What the heck is this show about? Terrible, terrible, terrible. All right, everybody. Join us next week again when we talk about Iron Fist. For the absent Sean Keenan, Bruce Leslie, I'm Adam Portrais. Stay super, everybody.